Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Soundtrack, a live queer oral history project sponsored by the UBC Equity and Inclusion Office. I'm your host, Michael B. Smith, and I'm coming to you from the beautiful unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people. Each week, we welcome a special guest, and we feature a new album as the prompt for the soundtrack of our lives. And the album this second week comes from the amazing early career of Bjork. It's the Sugar Cubes. I love that band. And the album specifically is from 1992. It's It is the album. It's It. And here to tell us where she was when is the amazing writer and University of Calgary professor, Suzette Mayer.
Hello.
Hi, Suzette. Welcome to Soundtrack.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm coming to you from Treaty 7 territory, also home to Métis Region number 3.
Amazing.
Great to be here.
I'm so thrilled. Okay, so I've got the Queer Toonie, which is also, I love this little trick, my stigmata. Ooh. Do you want queens or bears?
Bears, please.
Whoops, I dropped it.
Okay.
Bears, queens or bears, and it's bears. You get to go first.
All right. Okay, so this is what I didn't want to tell you while we were getting ready for this. So I have to qualify this piece immediately. So when I saw the option of It's It by the Sugar Cubes, I immediately fell down a major memory hole, and I was that emoji with the squiggly eyes because there was a lot that came up. And I realized after I finished writing this piece that I'd mixed up the version of Birthday that was on Life's Too Good with the version that comes up on It's It. So my apologies already. The thing is, though, is that Birthday in particular was the soundtrack for many years, and it was on a steady loop. So doesn't matter which version we're listening to. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so great.
Okay. Winter 1989. Renee L. has her turntable set up next to the window in this 1912 bachelor apartment in downtown Calgary. Record albums stacked on the carpet and lined up in milk crates because she loves music, because she works in a record store, because she is in your face and everyone else's faces with her swearing and belching and Olympic beer drinking, and you find her so thrilling in her outrageousness, her obsession with scatology and Jonathan Swift, her snarky girlfriend named Tanya C. Renee L. and her girlfriend Tanya C. are the only real lesbians you know. This is the first lesbian house you've ever stood in, drank in, peed in. You perch on the lesbian's black framed couch with other English majors, all of you thinking you're just so damn smart, flashing your new vocabularies, a contest to see whose books are thicker. Your own history of messing around with exactly one woman, a woman named Christy M., a shadowy secret, a larva buried in your chest, squiggling under your ribs as you rub your hand across the lesbian's upholstery fabric. Your fingertips too sensitive in this den of iniquity, the radiator's blooming heat, fourth drink in your hand. The whirling turntable shrieks about a birthday in this white-walled apartment called Darlington or Bricker or Colgrove Apartments, the ceilings high and curved like cervixes. Renee L's bicycle hanging from the ceiling in the bedroom. Tanya C's courier bike propped against the wall. English majors drinking and sweating cedar incense, craft dinner, and Bjork wailing. Renee L. tells a loud story about how she left a dirty saucepan on the kitchen floor for so long it grew maggots. Tanya C. curls her red lip at this story, disgusted with her maggot maiden, this story of a pot delirious with maggots. And while you take in Renee L.'s slim hips and loud, crooked laugh, while you try not to stare at Tanya C.'s wet, red lips and muscled legs, you can feel yourself getting slithery like a maggot too, then distorting, contorting. That larva in your chest is you. It's you. Once you exit this apartment and pick your way down the staircase, your own housefly wings will unfurl, stretch wetly, buzz, buzz. You too will start to fly, your tiptoes scuffing, then leaving the floor, buzz, buzz. One night, not too soon after, you'll fly in the door of their open relationship, lie in Renee's crumpled bed covers in naked Renee's naked arms, her naked bicycle hanging above you in this naked cathedral. Years later, you'll be eating those red lips of Tanya C. in her zippy red Honda Prelude in Fish Creek Park. Tanya C., a one-night stand who 20 years later will buzz with you in unholy matrimony. At your wedding, you will whirl like a turntable, like a bicycle wheel spinning from a ceiling, like two flies in a jar. You will dart in the air with each other. Hello, Tanya, my wife. Buzz, buzz.
Oh,
there you go.
So gorgeous. I'm crying.
Oh.
Oh, what a turn. What a gorgeous turn. I love that. Okay, let's not talk about it until we get to the end. I'm not supposed to talk about it.
All right.
Okay, so I always title my poems after the album. So it's it. The summer I moved in with M and P above a plastic surgeon's office, I listened to Sugar Cubes on repeat. Bjork's piercing voice before anyone really knew her as Bjork. Its clarity like acupuncture with psychedelics on the needle's tip. It was in that Selby Street apartment that Bonnie Bernard called to complain she'd had to hunt me down via the Toronto phone book, and weren't there a lot of Michael Smiths to get through, 38, I think, because she was publishing a story of mine in an anthology. First time in a book. It was that apartment where I slept with Dee again 2 years after we broke up, and we climaxed simultaneously without having to say anything. Where I had my first threesome, respectfully unimpressive, and my first married man on a work trip from Chicago. Also noteworthy was Lee, who at least gave me the best orgasm of my life, an out-of-body experience, before his drunkenly cold shoulder. One night, as I walked home from the subway in drag, a guy cruising the strip tried to talk me into his Mustang, while a man smoking across the street out front of Boots, the cowboy-themed gay bar, yelled, "Get in that car, baby! Baby needs a new pair of shoes!" The driver chased me to the door of the plastic surgeon's office, which I'm sure gave him a moment of pause. I still regret not getting his plates. That whole summer in my portable CD player, the Sugar Cubes made me think the world was full of that particular elation of simply being alive. I danced down Bloor like I didn't care who I wasn't. When I was so young, life was still full of firsts, whether you welcomed them or not.
That's beautiful.
Aw, thanks. There you go. That was, for me, that was really the early 90s. Like the album came out in 92. I got it on a CD somebody burned for me. They burned both those albums. And you were in Calgary.
Yeah, I was in Calgary.
So that was those were the first lesbians you ever met, and you ended up marrying one?
You know what, I think so, yeah. I mean, I had fooled around with this woman in Waterton when I was like 18, but she, like, it just, it was a different time where it's like, well, she had all these boyfriends. So, I guess we were just really drunk. So what was that? And so these were like, they were the first women who, speaking of first, they were the first women who were out about it, like unabashedly, like there was no, there was no ambiguity about it. They were absolutely together. They were shacked up in this place, they were it. So it was amazing to just be there. And it was like fascinating, but repulsive, but titillating, but amazing, but horrible, to be there and kind of recognize myself there, even though they weren't a thing like me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I've been thinking a lot. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I turned 50 this year. It's like I've been having a walk down memory lane and just remembering things that I hadn't really thought of before. I've been trying to record them, and that's sort of where this soundtrack project came from. So I've been thinking about how there were stages of coming out that are so different, I think, than today. Like you were saying, that idea that fooling around with someone was just kind of a drunken mistake or fun or whatever, a dalliance. But the out live the live people who are the out people who were like so open about it. It was a different way of being in the world, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just, it wasn't casual. It really was lifestyle. It was choosing to be this thing rather than this action.
Yeah. It was before the first Calgary Pride, even, I think, maybe just around the same time. And what was amazing about these two women was they were both beautiful. And they also walked around holding hands all the time. And they would get so harassed and chased down the street, but they just didn't give a shit. Like they were, and they were doing the hairy legs. Like there was no mistaking them. And it was like, this was so not my experience. My experience was always about hide in the shadows, be quiet, don't attract any trouble. So it was just fascinating. And so I think it's no mistake that I was kind of completely attracted to them because they were so opposite to me, you know. They were sort of like what I wished I could have been, but was just too scared to do. And I also didn't know what I was doing. Like I honestly, so I fooled around with Christy M. And then Renee was the second person I slept with. And it was still all very strange. It was kind of like, even though it didn't matter how many people I slept with, they were always like the first, because it was like, okay, what is this? What is this? Until I fell in love with Lisa B. Then it was like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And that was like 90, 93 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, when I first got together with somebody, we didn't talk about it. We just made out and did things, and very adamantly, he didn't want to talk to me about it at all.
Hmm.
And so it went on for quite a long time without us. And we talked in code. One of my poems, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but one of my poems is, our secret language. And we got together the same time he was dating somebody else. He was dating a woman. And so we were the secret and they were out. And I said, well, you can't date both of us at the same time and not tell her that you're dating me. And I remember very distinctly, he said, well, it's not the same thing because you're a boy and she's a girl. And I said, if you were dating another boy, you would tell him. Yeah. And if you were dating another girl, or tell me. And he said, yeah. I said, and if you were dating another girl, you would tell her. Yeah. But because one was a boy and one was a girl, it was okay to date me in secret, to have this thing on the side. And that kind of mental, that was common, right? It was such a common way of thinking about the world because we were so used to being raised in secret. I didn't even know in Cornwall, Ontario, I didn't even know where I could go. Like people talk about, oh yeah, listening to Jimmy Somerville, and I would, or whatever, you'd follow some band that you knew was queer and you'd research them and look stuff up. And there was no internet. I didn't know in Cornwall where you could find out. It never even occurred to me you could go to the library and look for a book that had gay in it and sit in the corner. I didn't even know that was possible, that there would be a book with gayness in it somewhere. It's amazing how that's the sort of ephemera that I find so interesting, is the way in which you just conceived of yourself, I think, has changed dramatically because the internet's given us so much access.
That's so funny about the library. Like I think one of the first things I did was go to the library because I thought there's got to be books about this. And so, I found this book where it said Plato was gay and David Bowie is gay and, whatever. And then I was talking to Tanya about it years later, and she said she was stealing all of those books, like just taking them out of the library and keeping them, So
because you don't want to go through, you don't want to check it out.
Who knows what she was doing? I think she's just a klepto anyway, but it was like, that's not fair to the rest of us who are dying to know who we are. And the thing too is that, with Christy, I think she would have been into a relationship, but she just also wasn't my type. Like just because we were two women and we were sexually attracted to each other, she wasn't my type. Like, I was a bookish gal from day one. And so it was really cool to hang around these English majors, who were talking about Jonathan Swift and who also were sleeping with girls. Like it was amazing to find people who were like me. So, I think it was also about, part of me was sort of like not settling, you know what I mean? Or somebody had to just kick me through the door. I don't know. I
And
don't
how'd
know.
you find them? Do you remember how you met them?
It was so with Christy, it was in Waterton. She was my roommate, or she was, I think, the roommate of the person, she was working in the bar with somebody who was my roommate. And so it was just us hanging out and drinking too much and then suddenly kissing each other and whatever, I blacked out, whatever, you know. And then with those two women, it was the honors program. So I was in the honors program and Renee was in the honors program. Tanya wasn't, because she was doing like an arts degree, a fine arts degree with an English minor, something like that. I can't remember. And so there was this honors room where all the honor students would go and hang out with the couches, and it was disgusting. Like, it was disgusting because people would sleep on the couch. They, like Renee, you know, beautiful, beautiful woman, but she was kind of disgusting. Like, they had a race to see, they had one of those little packets of mayonnaise that they'd opened up and they sort of stuck it on the wall to see how long it would take for it to decay. Like, it was that kind of room. It was disgusting. So so we all, you know, we were all kind of in this little disgusting little room and basically, you know, stealing each other's books and partying and hanging out and drinking and all kinds of things. So, and Renee was just very, I mean, she was really open about it. She was dating a guy when I very, very, very first met her, but then, and so was Tanya. And then later on, I think about a year into the program, suddenly these two women were together and it was a completely different aesthetic. It was, you know, everything. And the music was, you know, I was so excited about your podcast because, you know, I cannot hear Birthday without just, you know, going back to that place. Like, even just writing this piece, and, you know, I played it for Tanya and it was like, whoo boy, remember those days. They were brilliant, but they were also scary. It was just so much uncertainty. And like you said, you know, secrets. Like, it was also me hiding from my parents
Right.
just all the time and hiding from everybody. And, you know, it was awful. It was awful. And my first couple of girlfriends, they had to deal with me being such a closet case and doing to them what that guy did to you, you know,
Right.
basically.
Yeah. Well, it's these weird compromises we have to make because you just don't know how to be. I didn't know how to be a gay person. I didn't know how to be be out. And I went to prom 2 years in a row with a woman, even though two different women, even though I was dating, I had a boyfriend both those years. And
Yeah.
it never even occurred to me that we could go together. Like, what's his name? Mark
Hall.
Mark Hall.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, man, I wish Mark Hall was the year ahead of me because I'd have done it the next year. Right? It was the magic of Mark Hall who made it possible for gay people to realize they could go to prom with the person they're dating. It's that it's like a script that you're given of what's not just permitted, but what's possible. And I wasn't clever enough to know I could change the script. It took me a long time to realize there were other ways of being in the world. Moving to Toronto was so exciting because I met out people who taught me how to not have those weird boxes that you draw where that so you could see outside of them, see what else was possible.
It was a strange time too, though. You know, I remember, like, really, I just wanted to meet women. I wanted to meet them so bad. But like you said, it's like, I don't know where to go to find out how to meet women. I don't know where they go. Where are the lesbians? And it was really, it was, you know, I remember saying this on a date to somebody, and then she just sort of turned around and didn't want to see me ever again. And I said, the way you get to know lesbians is by sleeping with one of them. And then you meet their friends, and then you can sleep with them. And, you know, like, that was how it was done. There was no, it was sort of, you had to somehow tap into, you know, that, I don't know what that is, that secret culture, and finding that door was not easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
I had a boyfriend for 2 years before I ever went to a gay bar.
Oh.
And I remember having to talk myself into going in the gay bar, even though I'd had a boyfriend for 2 years. But I just was so terrified of what that bar was going to be like. And then I walked in and it was a bar. And I was like, with gay people. I was like, oh, okay. There were other scarier bars that I didn't go into those, but maybe I might have been a little more intimidated. But just that idea that a gay bar was somehow another place, It wasn't a bar with gay people. It was a gay bar.
Yeah.
And I had to really unlearn that. It happens fast, right? You walk in and you're like, oh, geez, I'm an idiot. I'm the same person. I'm in a bar.
It was pretty wild though, seeing women dancing with other women though. I mean, that was shocking to
Yeah.
me. I didn't
Yeah.
know you could do that.
Genius.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness for all the models who were there ahead of us to show us what was possible.
Oh, yeah.
That brings us to the end of our time, Suzette. I want to thank you
Oh,
for sharing these amazing reflections, talking to me about your first loves and first sexual encounters.
this is sort of like the Kiss and Tell podcast a little bit, hey?
Yeah.
I know we're using initials all over the place, just in case.
I just want all the dirt. That's all. So let's give Suzette a warm thank you applause. If you haven't already, check out our Facebook event page or the Soundtrack group to find out more info on Suzette. I posted bios and there's links there. Here, I also am going to put a link. Yay, there's Suzette's website. Write fan mail, invite her to read in your town, teach her work in your classes. I want to thank the UBC Equity and Inclusion Office for sponsoring this event and the Inspired Word Cafe for helping to get the word out. And my personal thanks to Andrea Routley for doing all the back-end admin, and for Shimshon, who's coming up, who's going to host our open mic. See you next week, everybody. We have somebody amazing next week. Mwah! Love you all. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I loved it.